Hello and welcome to another episode of Acceptable Madness. This week, we're not going to have an intro theme because, I don't really want to. That's it. Yep, that's my reasoning. I don't really want to. That's okay. So instead, we're going to dive straight into this episode of the podcast. I don't have much that I want to report on besides the podcast because I have a lot of stuff going on with my life. And I'm happy about that, and I always try to keep myself busy, and that's actually why I wanted to talk about the balance of work and play. It's something that, the reason that I want to talk about it right now is because it's something that I have been struggling with a lot, and I have been for the past 6 months in each ends of the spectrum. And it's been a really weird thing to, I would like to say, overcome, but I have not overcome it as I am still actively working with it. So it's been a really weird thing that I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to talk about how it's been affecting me emotionally and how it's been making me feel. I would like to say, and I'm going to start putting this at the beginning of every episode of this podcast, I am not a doctor or medically trained. This is literally just the ramblings of a guy named Scott who thinks that maybe his thoughts and his struggle with mental illness and depression and suicidal thoughts could potentially help other people struggling with the same thing. So I hope that's the case, but I'm not a doctor, and I don't pretend to be. So, to start off, let me give a little bit of background about what I've been doing recently. And I know this is stuff that I've talked about before. I like to write. I like to do this podcast. I like to make YouTube videos. I like to mess around with Photoshop, even though that's something that I haven't really had the time to do recently. I try to balance the life of someone that is in a committed relationship. I'm actively trying to do better at staying in touch with friends that I haven't necessarily been able to because of the stuff that I've been doing and just lives being pulled in each and every direction and everybody having their own things going on. I'm trying to balance family relationships all at the same time. As of recent, I have been working in a grocery deli, and so I've been doing that for about 40 hours a week. And I'm also trying to maintain a good sleep schedule while also trying to keep up with the show that I'm watching right now, which is Better Call Saul. I watch about 1, maybe 2 episodes a day if I'm lucky and if I'm feeling lazy, but mostly 1 episode a day. Now, I know that all of that stuff, it sounds like a lot, but whenever I put it that way, that it's all things that everybody else deals with too. Family, work, friends. You can even throw in stressing about money and financial awareness, because that's something that I stress about a lot. Trying to keep up with whatever excites you. So work, family, friends, yes, those are all things that are necessary, and family and friends can be a very hanging out with them and talking to them can be very cathartic, and it's really good to build those relationships. But you also have other things that I'm sure you like to do by yourself, as I do. By myself, I like to act on any sort of creative outlet that I could possibly think of. And that includes writing, doing this podcast, again, making videos, so all the stuff that I mentioned earlier. But I also have this thing where I really like always trying to learn something new. If I don't, because since I've graduated college, when I was in college, I hated it. I didn't like the case studies. I didn't like professors. I didn't like the people that were in my classes. I hated doing projects, and I didn't like any part of it, and I basically rebelled against it. But since I've gotten out, I found a lot of people that they either have graduated college and then have never thought again a day in their life, or they haven't gone to college and haven't thought a day in their life, or since their education. I'm not saying that only the people that have thought are the ones that have gone to college. I would never say that. That's incredibly untrue. But it's just, it feels like so many people, when they get out of college, they fall into these routines and they don't try to learn more. Now, if that's you, that's perfectly fine. I'm honestly, the main reason I talk about this podcast is because I just want people to be happy. So if that makes you happy, if you get out of school and you fall into these routines that make you feel comfortable and make you feel secure and you're genuinely happy with that, fucking great. I'm happy for you, and I hope that you can continue that without too many monkey wrenches thrown into it. And but for me, that's never been something that I have thrived with. I'm not good at maintaining a routine because I get stagnant. I feel like I get lazy, and then what happens is I just start to like hate myself. Like I get into this bad trend of self-loathing, suicidal thoughts, depressive tendencies, and I get really unhappy. But then that unhappiness makes me more lazy. And so say I'm having a lazy day and I'm sitting there watching YouTube or watching Netflix or Hulu or whatever else I'm doing in that given day, and I feel like I'm just being the laziest fuck in the universe. I just start to beat myself up internally, and then I'll continue doing the same nothing that I'm already doing, but now I will be unhappy while doing it. And it's a weird self-inflicted type of pain. It kind of feels like a punishment, but it's I'm not like trying to punish myself. It's just the outcome of what's happening in that given moment. And it's something that I was laid off recently. I was laid off a few months ago. In March 5th was my last day at my last job. And I had about a 3-month gap before I got my next job. And in that 3-month gap, the first month, I was thrilled. I got to work on all my hobbies. I got to focus more on my podcast, more on my writing, more on... I don't think... I wasn't really doing videos at that point, but I got to focus on all these things that made me happy. And they still all make me very happy. But after about a month, and as I said, I was laid off for about 3 months. I couldn't find the motivation to continue working on them with the same kind of vigor and diligence that I had in the first month. And I tried really, really hard to maintain that aggression in what I was doing, and that passion, and that determination to keep it going, and I just couldn't. For the life of me. And it's not like I liked them any less, and it's not like I didn't want to do them. I just was having a really hard time. And eventually I started to think that maybe the reason being was that I had too much time on my hands, because I was only thinking about my hobbies, and then eventually you hit this point where if that's all you're doing, you start to mentally wear yourself out, and I think that's what was happening to me. And so I started to get really lazy, and I wasn't doing as much as I wanted to do, but I also wasn't doing anything that made me happy. I was just wasting a lot of time. And again, for some people, that might just be what they like. They just like what they like, and that's it. And, but that's not me. So I continued doing that for a while. And I really, really tried to keep pushing what I liked. I think that's whenever I did introduce the creating YouTube videos with my buddy Nikos, and we started doing that more. I love it. I love all of it. But I had a hard time maintaining that same kind of tenacity that I had at first. And then I got the job at the deli, which happened in late May, early June. I don't know the exact date. It doesn't matter. It's really not important to whatever I'm saying. But I had the orientation. I started working there, and I started working hard, and that'll be something. The reason for why I'm working with the, I'm working as hard as I possibly can there, and like at a deli. And I don't mean to speak ill at anybody working at a deli. I think it's honestly, I like it most days, and it's a good line of work, and people need their deli meat, so it's fine. But my passion outside of my hobbies is still marketing, more specifically strategic marketing, and I miss it. I haven't done it for a while. I did it a little bit at my last job, but not very much. And I miss it way more than I thought I would. But even though working at the deli for me is not a like long-term career option, which it is for some people. And again, I think that's great, as long as that's what makes you happy. And even though I don't view it as such, I have been working as hard as I possibly can. And again, I hope to make an episode about that in the future, about like kind of understanding part-time jobs and stuff like that. But basically, I have had my schedule fill up. I've been getting 40 hours a week because I've been working my ass off to make sure I do get that, because I want my manager to see that I'm worth having on for 40 hours a week. I have been doing everything I can to stay on the customers and my employer's good side. And I have asked to start opening as well. So that means that I have to go to bed earlier. I'm typically going to bed anywhere between 9:30 and like 10:30. And then I wake up at about 5:30 to 6 to start work at 6 o'clock. Luckily, I don't have too much of a morning routine, and I live a 4-minute drive away from my work right now. So it's really not like, it's not bad. And then I get home. I finish usually around like 3 o'clock, and I will get home, and I have about 6 hours, 6.5, to try to juggle all of the things that I'm trying to do. Writing, balancing relationships, videos, podcast. There's still work, maintaining that good sleep schedule. I'm trying to read still. I'm really trying to find time to read. I'm reading The Infiltrator by Bob Mazur right now. Highly recommend. About a third of the way through, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less, I don't know. But it's hard to find time for all that too. And it's weird because like I know that most people are like, you should prioritize on one thing, but I get really bored if I'm only writing or if I'm only making videos. I would lose my mind. I think I mean that like sincerely. I just would get so bored with it, and I like having that kind of diversity and always doing something different, because it's also exploring so many different mediums. Having a podcast is cool because that's one audience that is just, it's a less traditional audience, and it's people that are looking to listen to something on a commute or as a way to distract or teach or something, and it's really cool to do that. YouTube is either tutorial based or entertainment, and the stuff that I make is significantly more entertainment based, which is great, and that's what I like to do. And then there's also other people that like to do like Instagram and Facebook, and those are two that I still struggle with, and I've told you that I struggle with it plenty of times. But there's still content there, and as I branch away from exclusively mental health stuff, I've been enjoying it a little bit more, to the point where in my last Instagram post, I said something along the lines of Keebler elf ejaculate at some point, and it was just a fun video for me to make. Check it out if you want. But I'm still trying to balance all the same stuff that I was doing while I was unemployed, but now I'm trying to do it while I'm employed. But I feel that kind of pressure and weight on my shoulders, because now I don't have all the time in the world to do it. Now I have 6 hours a day to do it, with 2 days off in a week that are not necessarily back to back. So I was off today, Sunday, as I'm recording this. I work tomorrow, and then I'm off Tuesday. And then I work the next 4 days of the week, and I don't know what I work next week. It could be more than 4 days. I could have Sunday off. I really just have no idea what my schedule next week is going to be. So what I know is tomorrow I have 6 hours of work, and then Tuesday so 2 days from now, I have, we'll say 16 hours to work. And then I have 4 days with 6 hours to work per day on my own stuff, because working and getting paid and not getting kicked out of your apartment is important. So I am doing all that stuff. And along with that, because I'm a masochist or something like that, I'm adding more. I have this urge to learn all these useless skills that I think would be cool, because they're like party tricks. And I don't know if I'm doing it for vanity or because I'm I don't know why I'm doing it, but what I'm trying to do is just learn all these different things. I'm trying to learn how to juggle. I'm trying to learn Spanish because I feel like that's a really important skill, especially nowadays in America with our sisters to the south and our brothers to the north. I think that learning Spanish or French or both, if you can, is incredibly important. Obviously, like Chinese, Japanese, and so many other languages are important, but the ones that are most pertinent to me right now are Spanish and French. And so I've been trying to do that. And along with that, I want to learn how to do other dumb stuff. I want to solve a Rubik's Cube. I want to learn how to ride a unicycle because my sisters, I believe it or not, I have two sisters and they both already owned a unicycle. So I borrowed one of them and I hope to learn how to do that soon too. My friends, I live in like 2 hours, hour and a half away from where they're at. They're trying to get me to come do improv classes with them, and I think that that would be an absolute delight. I think I'd love every single second about it. But the act of driving those 2 hours to do one class, to drive another, that we'll say it's an hour long. I don't know how long it would be. To drive another 2 hours back, that's 5 hours, and only one of them is going to be dedicated to something that would be actively working on. Now, improv comedy is not something that I'm necessarily passionate about. Not that I have anything against it, because Whose Line Is It Anyway is a phenomenal show, and I saw Colin Mockery and Brad Sherwood live back in, I want to say, maybe February? It was a while ago. No, it was April something. It doesn't matter, but I watched them whenever they were over in Youngstown, Ohio, I think, and it was a lot of fun, and I think improv is fun, and I think being quick-witted is a very important trait conversationally, at least for me. I like being able to maintain the flow of conversation, make jokes that can kind of keep the people that you're having the conversation with entertained. I like being the goofball in a group, so I think that to me would only help and maybe give me a better understanding of the structure for comedy. And having a better understanding with that would help me potentially make better videos for YouTube and Instagram and all sorts of stuff. It's just another skill that I can try to better. Excuse me. But it's just so much stuff going on. So whenever I was unemployed, I had so many things that I could work on. But I had a really, really hard time motivating myself because I didn't have anything like under my ass, like kicking it to get in gear, except my own drive. And eventually my drive ran out. And now I work and I come home and I will eat. And shortly after I eat, I will watch like one episode of Better Call Saul for lunch. And then I will immediately dive into whatever I'm trying to do. And I've been having a really hard time maintaining and continuing everything that I want to do and maintaining relationships and doing all these other things without neglecting or doing it like half-assed, because I really don't want to do anything half-assed. I'd rather not do it. The problem is I love everything that I'm doing, even learning how to juggle and stuff like that. Like, it's just so fun to me. And I don't know if it's because I'm a workaholic or, again, a masochist. I don't fucking know what the reason is. But I just have such a fun time doing everything. And I don't think I'm doing any of it necessarily poorly. So that makes me feel better about it too, because everything's a learning experience. So whenever I do a video, I can try to edit it differently and try to do different types of content and all this stuff. And everything's a learning experience. And everything I write is a different story that I feel like I need to tell and want to tell. I follow some subreddits that are about writing, and although I find most of what people say on there incredibly pretentious and douchey, if I'm being completely honest, there are so many people on there that they're just like, yeah, you know what? I'm a writer, and I write, but I hate writing. And I just don't understand that. I love everything that I do, even if I don't necessarily love, like, reading the final product after I've written something other than editing or listening to myself on the podcast all the time. I do it sometimes because I think that's an important way to learn how to, again, just improve it. If I'm not, even though it's kind of weird to listen to yourself and it can be misconstrued as a bit narcissistic, I find it helpful to do that, to know what kind of traits that I have as I'm speaking, if there's anything I do that could be done better, how many times I say but, and like words that can be thrown into the middle of a sentence as some filler as I do it again. So it's important to know all those things so I can better it and make better content. And I think that all of that's incredibly important. And I like doing it all, but now I'm starting to run out of time in a week. And I know that sounds weird, but I really, really, really value my time. I value my sleep. I value my relationships. And I value my work. Not necessarily at the deli. I value it. I don't hate it, but it's something that's more necessary than it is passion. So whenever I said work, I meant hobbies. But I love all of that stuff. And I'm really, really trying to do it all well. But I'm running out of time. And so, like, today I was really stressed out. I also play Pokemon Go, even though it's like 3 years after the trend should have died. I'm still playing it. Alex plays it. My mom plays it. My dad actually recently got a smartphone for the first time, and he's been obsessed with it. And I'm happy about it because it's been getting him out of the house and getting him some more exercise. But even my brother plays it, and one of my 2 sisters recently reinstalled the game for the first time in like 2 years. And so today was an event in Pokemon, and I left my house for about 2 hours to do it. And this is after I spent 3 hours, or about 3 hours, out and about going to the beach that's near my apartment, getting sunburn because I didn't know you could. I know it's skin and I know it's stupid, but I got sunburn on the lower parts of my legs because I've never gotten sunburnt there before. So I just decided not to put sunscreen there. So I got sunburn on my legs, and not thrilled about that. But anyway, I went to the beach for about, we'll say 3 hours. Then I went and did Pokemon Go for 2 hours. And today I was off. So I had, we'll say 16 hours. And this morning I woke up. I enjoyed an episode of Better Call Saul. I enjoyed coffee, and I wanted to take it easy because I had a couple days of work in a row, and I just wanted to relax a little bit. And then I realized what kind of a time crunch I was on, so I started writing, and I wrote about 2,000 words, which is a good amount for me, but I wish I had done a little bit more. And then I had to do all that stuff, and then I was like, well, now I have to come home, and I have to do I want to do a little bit of Spanish practice tonight. I want to talk to Alex. I want to record this podcast. I want to do a video, but I don't have time for that. But I'm starting to fall behind on how recently I've done that. I want to read, but I don't really have time to do that. But maybe I'll do a chapter before bed, but then that's cutting into the sleep schedule. I want to write more, but I really don't think I'm going to have time to write. I want to juggle, but, well, I guess I can. I told my friend Kyle I was going to call him, but, you know, I don't have too much time, but I know I'm going to talk to him for like an hour because we always talk for like an hour whenever we keep up. But I could juggle while we talk, but then where am I going to fit Spanish in? And oh my God, what's going to happen? So that is, I know that sounds weird, but that's really the rate at which my mind was firing. And it started to really stress me the fuck out. And this is after, let me just say, so this Pokemon thing, you don't need to know anything about Pokemon to understand what I'm about to say, but I went into Erie, which is the city that I live near. And I get very anxious in cities. I'm a naturally paranoid person. So if I'm in a group of people, I'm assuming that they're all out to get me. Now, I know that that's, again, paranoid and probably not healthy, but whatever. And I was already anxious going out into the city. I went by myself because Alex she has an internship elsewhere and she won't be back for another month. And so I walked around with people that I'm unfamiliar with playing Pokemon in the city, and in the group that I happened to fall into, they walked on a route that I was unfamiliar with. So I was in a new area. I was with people I didn't know. I was in the city surrounded by lots of people, and I was by myself. And I was stressed the fuck out. And then to end it if you spent more money, then you could have played longer, but I chose not to spend any money on the game. So I left about an hour into the 3-hour excursion, and I had to walk back to my car through the city by myself. Now it was broad daylight, but I was freaked out. Especially because, and I know that this might sound weird, but I'm very unfamiliar with cities and I'm a very anxious person. So, judge me however you will. I don't care. I think what you want. But while I was in the city with a group of Pokemon players, some guy approached and started asking people for money, and that puts me on edge. I don't know why, it just does. And I didn't have any money on me, so it's fine. But he asked and was like, "Hey man, you got $1?" I was like, "No, sorry." That was it. That was the end of the conversation, but it freaked me out. And it put me completely on edge. I have nothing but, I feel bad for the guy. I really didn't have any cash on me, so I wasn't lying, but I feel bad for him. And, I wish him the best, and I have nothing against, if he was homeless, then I have nothing but, respect for him and hope that he does well and, kicks ass at life. But still, I think that can be a nerve-wracking experience, and I know that because it was for me. So I was just on edge today, but I was also taking time out of when I could be trying to work on relationships or talking to working on my hobbies or whatever else. And I realized that I may do too many things. But as I said, I also love all of them, and I don't think I'm going to stop them. And I don't care what kind of an audience I get anymore. I hope I find some, because that'd be really cool. I'd be excited to share my work with as many people as I can, just because I think that'd be fun, and I think that'd be a very personal connection to make, even if I'm not necessarily having a conversation one-on-one with everybody. And I can't wait to see if anything becomes of it. But in the meantime, I'm really just enjoying it, and I still treat everything that I do as, maybe this is too morbid a way to think of it, but I treat it as a thing and as a way to put myself out there, my real self, this podcast, the videos, the writing, putting myself out there and creating stuff that, say something happens to me, my family and friends and girlfriend have something to remember me by. And then also, if if nothing bad does happen to me, then it'll be something cool for my future kids to see and be like, hey, this was your dad when he was your age. And yeah, he made jokes about Keebler elf ejaculate, so maybe he wasn't the most mature and intellectual being, but it's what he did for fun, and I'm proud of it now, and I hope that in the future my kids can be proud that I wanted to create something, and that I did create something. Because I really do value that creation, and following through with it, I think, is such a difficult thing, because it took me 21 years to start following through with some of my own stuff, and then once I followed through with it, I felt and I understood and I realized how absolutely wonderful it felt to commit to something and follow through, even if it doesn't amount to anything, whether it be money or grandeur or an audience. Just the act of following through with something and knowing you can do it and not procrastinating it was so wonderful that I to me, the thought of not completing something is unheard of. It's why I'm learning to juggle, and I'm going to juggle. I'm already better at it than I was a week ago. I'm going to learn Spanish. I may have a very bastardized American accent, but you know what? Tu eres una niña. Tu eres una niña, which means you are a girl. It's not a lot, but it's more than I knew a week ago. And I'm working on it all, but it's a hell of a lot of stuff. And I don't really know what the lesson is at the end of this podcast. Usually I can be like, and I learned so much from this life experience. And this time, it's something that I'm still actively trying to work out and understand. As for the act of having only play and only time for myself, I've learned that that's not the thing to do. One, you stress out about money too much if you don't have a job and you don't have any form of real income. The other thing is I think it allows you to get a little bit passive and lazy because there's nothing kicking you in the ass. As for having too much stuff, my current thought is just keep kicking ass and keep working as hard and diligently as you can until something changes. And if you work really hard and it never changes, that's fine too. Just keep doing what you like and what you love, but try not to add too much stuff so that you get upset with yourself when you don't accomplish it in a quick time. Like if I had juggling, solving a Rubik's Cube, learning how to ride a unicycle, writing, podcast, YouTube, maintaining a relationship, sleep schedule, work, if I do all that at the same time, it's never going to fucking happen. But if I can cut out a few things and maintain some other time or set aside some other time for people and other activities, then that's the best I can do. And that's the best anyone can do, is just keep trying. And so that's what I'm telling myself, and that's what I'm believing. It's not just me telling it to myself as this inspirational kitten poster that's hanging on my wall. It's me genuinely believing in it. And I'm doing my best. And again, that's all you can do. It's all anyone can ask for you. And I hope you're doing your best too. I hope it's making you happy. So, thanks for listening. I really, really enjoy doing this podcast. Even though my brand is changing to something that's less mental health based, this is still something that is so near and dear to me. And I really hope you're able to take something from it. And you don't have to be a better person. You don't have to do more work just because I do it. But I hope it can help you get one step closer to happiness. Thanks again. Bye.